Yes.
It's dadism.
It's well, this for the reason I'm going to explain is actually very interesting. But basically, the University of Cambridge are offering fertility lessons for female students. One of Cambridge University's last all-female colleges, Murray Edwards College, is set to introduce fertility seminars to teach women to start planning to have children by their mid-30s or risk forgetting to have a baby. Murray Edwards College will teach the classes alongside consent and sexual harassment classes this term. It comes after the latest data from the Office for National Statistics showed the total fertility rate in England and Wales has decreased from 1.58 children per woman in 2020 to 1.53 in the first quarter of 2021. The ONS have said that there are relatively steep decreases in monthly fertility rates between December 2020 and January 2021. And Dorothy Byrne, who is the person we're going to be talking about, the new president of the college, said the new lessons would help empower female students to understand more about their fertility. Now, it's worth noting that Byrne herself had only had has had her child through IVF. So clearly she feels compelled to ensure that other women who may want children don't end up in the position that she found herself in.
I kind of love this, though, because it very much reminds me of Singapore. I don't know if you remember their program for trying to get women to have more kids.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with it, sadly.
So they massively emphasized they wanted educated women to have more kids because their leader believed in the idea that if they have kids, the kids will be smarter. He also he tried to offer money in exchange for uneducated women getting made infertile, which is a whole other thing. But again, it kind of reminds me of that, where it's like, yeah, okay, also the women who are going through university, not having kids at a younger age, but also just, do you want more kids in the educated category? Probably yes. So it also makes sense there, presumably.
Yeah. No, I'm going to have to read that. But if we move on to the Times article, Byrne is quoted explaining why she sees fertility lessons to be important. We're asking a woman about
you can see the future of humanity.
Maybe. But she basically says we've swung too far one way. We rightly encourage girls to get themselves a great education, to have great careers, but it's come to be seen as old-fashioned and negative to say that to girls that the things an older generation used to say, like, are you courting or when you're going to have a baby? These things seem to be perhaps not present enough. And she basically believes that women can't be truly empowered about knowing the facts about fertility. And to quote herself, young women tell me the minute they register with a GP, the doctor says, what form of contraception are you using? And parents and teachers just give out information about how not to get pregnant. There's an extreme bias on this front. So she says she wants to teach also about consent, about harassment, but also to just educate about the most important, basically just to inform them about the most important point if they want to have children. And needless to say, I mean, none of this strikes me as remotely controversial.
No, I'm actually surprised that she's trying to put it in the language of empowering women in kind of feministy packaging or something.
Yeah.
It's no, just teaching people about fertility is something that's important and always has been.
Yeah.
There's no need to dress it up.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, there's a lot of pressure on not just women, but on people in general to prioritise careers, and not least because there's an economic incentive for it. But this is particularly bad for women because you've got, needless to say, pressure to accelerate or get more women into professionalised positions, and there's almost the idea that these women may be open to the idea of having children at some point has been a complete afterthought. And I suppose Byrne's concern is that they may realise this when it's too late. And doing this at the earlier stages of university, if anything, given that they are literally right at the beginning of adulthood, is surely the best time to be doing this. So it's quite hard to imagine how anyone can have any problem with this whatsoever. Of course, there is one group that we both have in mind here. But yes. So how do you think this has been received?
This is trying to turn women into slaves, I presume.
You're not far off.
Right.
So, this is what Hannah Fern has said. Cambridge has got it wrong. It's not women who need lessons about their fertility, but men and employers.
But what do you want me to do about it? I'm not the one with the fertility graph that drops off so suddenly.
Well, she goes on to say that there are a myriad of endlessly complex reasons why women might not have children, but right at the very bottom of that list would be the utterly unfathomable idea that they forgot. As many women explained with fury on social media yesterday, people do nothing but mention it from the minute you leave university. Whether you're in a relationship or not, you have experienced lost pregnancies or have no desire to become a parent at all, the questions just keep on coming, that is, unless you're a man.
I love how this is all in the language. I remember when 4chan did a raid and they convinced everyone you could microwave your iPhone and it would charge it. And people were like, oh, come on, no one's that stupid. You know, no one's unaware that they need to have children and
Yeah.
forget. Yeah, but the forums tell a different story. All the Apple forums about, so say if I microwave my phone, what would I do?
Yeah.
And all the blog posts of, so I'm 40 and I haven't had kids yet.
But isn't it best perhaps to set the standard at those who are the most ignorant and at least not speculate that everyone will just happen to know the most basic things on principle I accept they should? Like, it's a vouchsafe, isn't it?
But also the idea that she's just asserting that, oh, come on, everyone knows this. It's like, well, there's enough forum posts to suggest not.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but this is utter cope, basically. And it's just that same old claim. This is the patriarchy telling women to have children. That's what's at the heart of this when you read between the lines. It isn't. This is actually a quite sincere effort from a woman who, from her own experience, having nearly missed out on having one of the most, I don't know, wholesome things a woman can enjoy, which is being a mother. And but what's worse, and this is the part that I found actually particularly disturbing, is that this line is being peddled not only by classic feminists, but by the British Pregnancy Advisory Service, which we will see now from a whatever her name is.
This proposal is based on two notions that I disagree with. Firstly, it's based on the idea that, you know, women are ignorant about their fertility. At BPAS, we often see women who underestimate their fertility and then experience an unplanned pregnancy in their late 30s because they thought that their chance of conceiving was so low. And I think that these lessons are also based on the idea that if women were given this information, they would make different choices, when actually we know that there are lots of barriers to women having children at an earlier stage. Many women would love to start a family earlier in life, but unfortunately our society is just not set up to support those decisions. You know, women are acutely aware of the impact on their employment, for example, the cost of childcare, how difficult it is to afford a family home of your own. So these are the obstacles, not a lack of education.
This is extraordinary, because all she's saying is that women don't need to be told that about their own fertility, and then speculates on the premises of why they are being told, presumably referring to, well, it's the patriarchy telling women to get pregnant. And again, it's explicitly wrong. Byrne's doing this entirely out of concern for women who may want to get pregnant, may want to have children at some point.
I mean, I do agree with her on one thing there. She's like, well, you know, there are structural issues, let's say financial or whatever.
Yeah, that part of it's true.
I'm all for bringing back like marriage tax allowance or money for women to have babies and all the rest of it, in the same way Hungary has, for example. Nothing wrong with that. What's the problem?
No, that part of it's perfectly fine. But I guess what strikes me is how have we got to the point where the British Pregnancy Advisory Service are arguing against pretty basic pregnancy education?
Because they're feminists.
Yeah. That's but yeah, clown world. But everything that Byrne is saying is backed up by Healthline, a health advisory site, and as you can see from the, if we focus on the ages 18 to 24 subsection, there is quite literally a point by which it's probably best to plan your future if you're a woman. And what it says clearly is that if you of course decide to, if you want to have children, then if you do so in between 18 and 24, you cut the risk of birth defects, chromosomal problems, some fertility issues. So, you know, the knowledge is out there.
Yeah, but it's a biological reality.
It's a biological reality, but that's not to say that this is, you know, going to be accessible to absolutely everyone. There are, unfortunately, generations of young women who've probably been told a certain way of living their lives without understanding what the consequences of that might be.
University especially is going to cut into those years.
Yeah, and of course it's particularly bad given that I mean, again, it's another awkward topic, but it's the correlation between attractiveness and reproductive success as well, isn't it? Which is quite well supported, and it's. I mean, this very much unchallenged culture of promiscuity at university campuses is, as hard as it is to say, disproportionately going to affect women for this reason. And I think allowing these discussions to take, or at least I think Byrne is very much aware of the fact that I suppose the early partying years of just being an inseparable part of being an undergraduate, whilst this is something that can be enjoyed by some and doesn't come to the detriment of those who have no intention of having children at any point in their lives, it's going to have a detriment. It's going to negatively affect your chances of both finding a partner and having a child, if from the point that you graduate. But yeah, it's I know that
being a whore in uni isn't a good idea. You should probably try and find someone to settle down with if you can.
No, quite. But if we could get up the article by what was it, Natalie? Yeah, this is the study that I was actually going to recommend that people read ultimately, because it's one of the most notable ones out there, about the fact that you can't really separate physical attractiveness from reproductive success of which of course corresponds to fertility. So again, all of teaching these things and bring the things to people's attention in what Byrne's trying to do shouldn't be seen as controversial. But yeah, if we could bring up the article by Natalie Morris by Metro, she's actually wrote a surprisingly based article with a very, very useful study. Of course, she says men, regardless of their age, will always be attracted to women in their early 20s. And the study that she actually references, the Dataclasm study, if we go down a little bit more, yeah, that's the one, yeah. So as you can see, men are overwhelmingly, according to this study, fixated on women in their early 20s. And if you have a look at
that's a man's age versus the age of the woman they're looking.
That looks best to him.
Right. If you scroll down, just I see it. Yeah, 2020, 21, 21, 21, 23, 21, 23. I mean, it gets to what, 24 at max there?
24 at max.
At the 45 mark. So men at 45 averagely looking for a 24-year-old. But then around them again, we have 20, 20, 21, 20.
Yeah. You see,
just reality.
It is. Yeah. And if you actually have a look at the data beneath, which shows the women's age and the men whom they find attractive.
So this is what John's been talking about, and everybody's been referencing this on occasion. So the women's one is fairly linear, let's say, in which as the woman gets older, she's looking for a man about the same age as her, roughly, just looking at this graph. I accept men, not so much. Men looking for 20 to 23, 4 at max.
They pretty much remain fixated on the same age group all the way up to 50.
That's their ideal.
Yes, and they probably change their mind in virtue of other variables. I imagine as well. But what this essentially shows is what we already know really, which is that women have a very, very narrow kind of window to find the best people possible to spend the rest of their lives with and thus to have children with. Whereas for men, this can extend for 30 years in between 20 and 50.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking there. I mean, women still looking for men at 39, 40 there.
Exactly. So there's almost no consequence for men to do what they like in those early university years, because they're going to have time to make up for it at some point. And if anything, women would probably find that the interest that they have, I imagine, is potentially a virtue that goes in their favour. So it's needless to say, yeah. But even Maya Salam of the New York Times, if we could get that up, seems to agree. Of online data, and this data was collected from okcupid.com, it shows that women peak at 18 while men peak at 50. Needless to say, it's sorry. No, in it says researchers studied the desirability of male and female users based on how many messages nearly 200,000 users, all of whom were seeking opposite sex partners, got over 1 month on a popular free dating service, and if those sending the messages were desirable based on their same criteria. And what the research determined was that while men's sexual desirability peaks at 50, women starts at 18 and falls from there, and falls off a cliff when you kind of get to their mid 20s. So in short, that I think it's fair to say that it's in women's interests for them to know. I don't see how.
Why would keeping this information from women ever help them?
Well,
it would only ever be a disservice to them.
And it can only be for an ulterior motive, because you're just. It's an essential fact about what they are. Like, it's an
essential fact about society. I mean, what men want from women.
Yeah, quite.
To get the point there. But I love the idea that if you keep this information from women, that's somehow a service to them. So the only way it could ever be a service is a service to an ideology that thinks that they shouldn't care about such things.
Yeah.
But they obviously, presumably will, because like everyone, we're interested in settling down and finding someone to live with.
Yeah, exactly. So in short, I suppose, was it Dorothy Byrne? That was her name, wasn't it? I can't remember, goodness me. We support you. We think this is actually a very, very positive thing that you are doing, and don't listen to the feminists. There.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely right. I do love that I did turn out to be dadism in the end, because Carl did do a dadism section on exactly this topic, which is that women, there's a cap, essentially, in which you're no longer considered highly attractive to men, as demonstrated by the age of what's an ideal woman to you, regardless, given your age. And all of the men along there were like, yeah, the ideal woman's at 20. Like, right, okay. So it's not that you can't get one at 30, 40, all the rest of it, but the chances diminish.
Yeah.
If you enjoyed that segment from the podcast, The Lotus Eaters, you can watch the full thing at 1 p.m. every weekday at lotuseaters.com, or you can sign up to get access to all the premium content we have on the site.
Yeah, we've got loads of really good stuff. Every week we have a Contemplations and Epochs episode that goes up, and in the Contemplations we talk about just interesting things, and the Epochs episodes are probably my favourite because I love talking about history. This latest one is we're doing a bit of a series on the 100 Years' War and why England kept winning. And we've not finished it yet, and you're going to really enjoy the end of that one. But we've also got other excellent episodes that we do, like the book club. The most recent one was Shooting an Elephant by George Orwell. This was about his time in Burma as a colonial officer, and when he was tasked with the shooting of a rampaging elephant. And it's really, really interesting what the circumstance of the thing was. But we also have lots of other content, such as premium articles, which have audio tracks on them for our silver and gold subscribers. And we do premium podcasts about things that we don't really feel that we can put on YouTube or have done a particularly large amount of research into. And so it's worth keeping them slightly more private. And we also do lots of very interesting interviews, such as this one with comedian Steve Hughes, which was really fascinating because I didn't expect him to be a philosopher. But anyway.
Yeah. Also, the last thing to mention is the live event content we have. So we occasionally, when we get around to it, doing our live events, and the videos from them are on the website as premium, of course, because people came to see and paid. So go and check that out. This is on the worst of critical race theory.
Yes.
And I do mean the worst.
It's unconscionable.
Yeah. So if you'd like access to all that premium content, go to lotuseaters.com and subscribe. Thank you and goodbye.